Hello everyone, I'm potroast mom. You know everybody else, or you don't. Soon you will. Welcome. Today I wanted to discuss, today I'm wearing my Bow Down Peasants pot roast t-shirt. Today I wanted to discuss something I never really talk about for no particular reason. I'm not like embarrassed about it. I just never talk about it. Is the fact that I am an addict. And sometimes people are like, well, if you've been sober for years, aren't you an ex-addict? No, babe, that part still lives inside of me. If I were to come in contact with an original Four Loko, it would probably win out. It would. That's a joke. Or maybe it's not. Who knows? Anyways, I want to tell you about both times I got sober. And just other quick updates. Rocco's owner came by yesterday and told me that his birthday is in October. Incredible. Rocco genuinely did not care about his owner being here. I gave the guy a cat Go-Gurt, and then he fed Rocco the whole cat Go-Gurt, and then he left, and Rocco just went back to sleep. I'm trying to think if I have any other updates for you. I don't. So this is the Narcotics Anonymous handbook. Did you know that was there? And I have the Narcotics Anonymous step working guides. I don't think I'm going to read to you from them because that would be sleepcityboring.com. There will be no religious undertones to this because I am not religious. I was not raised with religion and I never got into it. Obviously, except for my holy roast. But I am going to keep it like pretty light. I don't really want to talk about the deeply traumatizing parts of addiction and being an addict. So we'll just, we'll just kind of coast on that like mildly choppy water. You know what I mean? If you don't, you will. Anyways. Picture this, or don't picture it because it's very sad. I started drinking when I was 13, which is so, like now that I'm an adult, if I saw a 13-year-old drinking, I would be so scared. I'd be so scared for both of us. Started to get pretty bad when I was in high school, and then when I was in high school, I got prescribed Vyvanse. So I got prescribed Vyvanse when I was 16. So I was like taking Vyvanse during the day and then getting really drunk at night. I went off to college. I stopped taking Vyvanse because I lost my mind a little bit. I do have ADHD, but I just love ADHD meds too much. There's just never going to be a way for me to manage it where I won't just like take handfuls of stimulants. Do you know what I mean? Even back then in high school with the like up and downs I was doing, I really messed up my brain chemistry. Oh, I should also mention that I have bipolar disorder and I was unmedicated in high school. So I lost my mind a little bit. I got a gorgeous little stay in the, psychiatric hospital. And after I got out, they were like, no more Vyvanse. And in a truly shocking turn of events, I did not know any drug dealers who were selling ADHD medication. So I didn't have ADHD medication again until I went to college. And when I got to college, my drinking got even worse, like drinking first thing in the morning, like every single day. And even for college, people were like, this isn't fun. And I would get really mean and like really black out and just overall not be as cool as I am today. And so then in 2017, some really sad, bad stuff happened. So I stopped drinking and it was terrible. I had zero support. I did not go to Alcoholics Anonymous because I was just like, I don't know, nervous. But luckily in college, I was in a sorority. And so I have an incredibly strong, close group of female friends, and they were extremely helpful to me when I got sober the first time. And I do say when I got sober the first time because then I was like using ADHD meds, and I say that like I'm not naming a specific one because I was taking all of them. I was doing Adderall, extended release, instant release. I was doing Vyvanse. I was doing Concerta. I was doing anything at all. And I was doing it while I was drinking, but when I stopped drinking, my brain, like, it was like, well, you need something. Also, I started smoking at the same time. And I gave up alcohol and Diet Coke. To this day, I think about Diet Coke way more than I think about alcohol. Like, way more. Hi, Swiss. Hi, Swiss. Where was I? I don't know if anyone remembers, like from elementary school, being in the DARE program, and then there was an essay contest for DARE. I won at my elementary school in 5th grade. And that is just dark, dark foreshadowing. And I love that for me. Every version of me. So I stopped drinking. I start using ADHD medication really, really, really intensely. I was prescribed it by a doctor, but I was also then buying it from other college students. And I would literally like buy so much that I would have to like wait for, I was buying from multiple people. I would have to wait for them to like get their prescription refilled because I was like buying their whole prescription. And you're like, oh, did you have the kind of money to do this? Absolutely not. It bankrupted me. One time I paid, which first of all, as a college kid, I had no money anyways. One time I paid my rent, like part of it in change. And the lady at the bank like looked so embarrassed for me, but I was so desperate to go get more Adderall that I just like couldn't even, yeah, that's just all I could think about. You know, I think that is something that all addicts experience, just like the one-track mind. So, okay, I'm addicted to ADHD medication. I'm smoking cigarettes. I'm just in general doing great things. Around the time that I stopped drinking, I got put on bipolar meds. That was huge for me. I was taking so much Adderall that it like made me very irritable. I was like snapping at people and just being really crazy, being hurtful in the same way, not the same way, but being just as hurtful as when I was like drinking really heavily to the people around me. And that was, you know, that's not something that I like to think about that I did. Plus I would just like stay up for days at a time. I think my whole mindset while I was taking ADHD medicine is like, well, I can't do this activity without it. Like I wouldn't be able to graduate college without it. But the thing is even when I was taking it, I was barely studying. You know, I spent most of my time like, I don't know, cleaning my room or just picking at my skin or like, oh my God, do you know what I did when I was on too much Adderall? I glued pot roast teeth to the teeth canvas. And that's not a good example because that's something incredible and gorgeous that came out of my addiction. But still, that's what I did instead of my schoolwork. And I graduated and I got a job. I got an engineering job, and in my mind, I'm like, I can't stop taking Adderall. So I moved back to Kansas City from the town where I went to college in. I find new people to buy from. I tell my psychiatrist that I'm studying for the FE, which is the Fundamentals of Engineering exam, which is like an exam that you can take after you graduate college or like right before you graduate. And it's like a really big engineering exam. So she ended up prescribing me Vyvanse in the morning and then like a 10 milligram instant release Adderall at night. Hair is everywhere, my queen bean. Can we get a little purr? Gorgeous. I graduated college in 2017, December of 2017. When I got my first job and I moved out and was like completely living by myself, that's when things got really, really out of control, and I was taking my entire prescription within like a week. And then I was like buying to try to fill up like the rest of the days of the month, because I don't know if you know this, but You can only refill an ADHD prescription or any kind of controlled substance prescription every 28 days. And if you keep doing it 28, 28, 28, they eventually only let you do it for 30. And also the pharmacists stop being nice to you. What? I love you. You smell bad though. People who have never been addicted to anything don't have sympathy for addicts. And I think a lot of times addicts who are not well don't have sympathy for other addicts, you know? I try to give myself lots of grace because, I don't know, not many people give addicts lots of grace. Oh, also, I should have added to the update, I moved the plants outside, which I'm very excited about because I was tired of trying to separate the plants and faucet. It was not working. Also, I had to hang that up way higher because faucet is jumping for the little leaves of, are they leaves? I don't know. Anyways, my pharmacist, my psychiatrist, and a therapist I was seeing at the time. And while in 2017 it was my choice to stop drinking, to stop taking Adderall and other ADHD medications was not my choice. So like I said, I would take my entire prescription in about a week. And then eventually I was taking so much, like I couldn't fill up the rest of the month by buying more. In those days when I didn't have meds, I feel like meds is such a, when I didn't have my fix using Narcotics Anonymous language, I would just sleep, like, because, yeah, my body just crashed so hard, so low after being so high. That started to make the people around me suspicious. And I'll tell you how it all came to a head. So I started seeing this therapist, who in retrospect was not a good one. She was not a good one. And at the beginning I was like, I am sort of scamming my psychiatrist into like multiple ADHD medication prescriptions. Also, this whole time I was taking Xanax. Like every second of the story I just told you about, I was taking Xanax. I don't know how I always forget about that, but went to bring me down when I went so high. I'm reminded of that Reno 911 clip where she's like, blue keeps me up, white puts me down, yellow keeps the demons from dancing all around. So I'm seeing this therapist and I'm like, I'm scamming my psychiatrist. I'm taking large amounts of narcotics. I'm buying drugs. Like, I want to be able to talk about that with you, but not if you're going to go blab to my psychiatrist. And she was like, well, I want to be able to build trust between us. But I think you should know that if I feel like if I begin to feel like what I'm doing is unethical, then I'm gonna reach out to your psychiatrist. And I should have stopped right there. No, I shouldn't have, because I'm very glad I got sober. I'm very glad for the way all of this transpired, because my life has just like, I mean, I cannot even tell you how much better my life is right now. I would have none of this if I had continued to keep using. So, obviously that therapist, things quickly got unethical when I would show up like insanely high or insanely low to my sessions. And one time I was just like so barred out. I had just taken so much Xanax, and the therapist was like, well, what did you take today? And I told her, which is like, no, it was good in the long run. And I don't remember exactly what she said, but I do remember her saying that amount of Xanax could like put down a horse. And I was like, yeah, exactly. That's why it's so cool. That's why I'm having so much fun. I I feel like she was definitely the kind of person who's never done drugs. And that's fine for her, you know? Good for her. But she reached out to my psychiatrist. My psychiatrist cut me off cold. She stopped prescribing me everything. I switched therapists. That new therapist told me I should go to intensive outpatient program. So I took like a sabbatical at work. I stopped going to work. And I went to this intensive outpatient program, and then I would see my psychiatrist so she could be really disappointed in me. And then I would see a therapist outside of the intensive treatment program, probably like 6 or 7 months. My brain chemistry was like trying to right itself, and I have never been so depressed in my life. No, like everything I feared when I was like in active addiction, like I need this, you know, I won't be able to function without this, that happened because my brain was like dependent on it, you know. And then so when I didn't have access to it, I was just so low and like crying all the time, and just so incredibly depressed. And like that's why I ended up going to Narcotics Anonymous, is because there were other people in the group who were in that same hole, you know, who were just trying to fix their brain chemistry. The intensive outpatient program, I just kept saying to everyone around me, like, this is what I feared when I was in active addiction. Like, this is as bad as, this is my worst case scenario. You know, how long is it going to last? And at Narcotics Anonymous, they say all kinds of like guidance counselor quotes that you just want to never, you just get so mad when you hear them. And one of them was like, just hold on. Like eventually, you know, if you can just hold on, if you can just stay sober, eventually this, you know, will get better. And I was like, okay, that's for sure a lie. It did get better. Eventually, I just had to hang on. I'm sorry to be one of those people who now spouts guidance counselor BS, but that's who I am now. And that therapist, the new one, his name was Marty. He was not helpful to me. And my psychiatrist has always been helpful to me, except for when she was prescribing me ADHD medication. Her brand of tough love really, I love her. She's the best. And if she sees this in a professional way, not in a weird way. The people I met in the intensive outpatient program, so it was like 3 days a week. You would go all day to the hospital and just like hang in a room with other addicts and do group therapy. And the people I met, the other drug addicts that I've met, are some of the most interesting people I've ever come across. Sometimes in a good, interesting way. Sometimes in a, oh my God, this is so deeply tragic sort of way. But there was this one guy in my intensive outpatient treatment, and he was like an older guy, and he wore this leather jacket, and like he took a million smoke breaks. So what I'm trying to say is he was very cool. I was like talking about, you know, how I just needed to get back on Adderall because it was not my choice to get sober. I was so mad. I spent so many months being livid, being hateful, being like, you did this to me. Like, I'm in this insane depression because you took away my medication that I needed, you know? And the guy with the leather smoking jacket, he wasn't hot. I mean, I guess you can picture him as hot if you feel like doing that, but he wasn't. One day after I finished speaking, he was like, oh, I actually had a friend go through the same thing. And then he starts talking about this friend, and eventually he used so much Adderall that like it really fucked up his brain, and then he started having seizures, and then he died. And after I heard that, I was like, I wonder if maybe it's not so bad that I got off Adderall. So that was helpful to me. Narcotics Anonymous was helpful to me. I'm not a group I'm not a group oriented person. You know, I don't do well in crowds, you know. In the words of Eleanor Shellstrop, who is one of the greatest TV characters ever invented, I'm better one-on-one when we're both looking at our phones and I don't know the other person and we don't talk. Also, when describing her, another character says, you have very high self-esteem and a very low tolerance for men in sandals. That's such a good quote. There's so many good quotes on the Good Place. Anyways, I met my sponsor in Narcotics Anonymous. She was the one who made me do this step working guide. And you know what's actually scary is I've never read all the things I wrote down here, even though there's like, I mean, this has got to be like at least 20 pages of handwriting. And so much of it is like hateful because I didn't want to be clean, you know? And I think for a lot of people, when they're forced to get sober, it backfires on them. Do you know what I mean? But I don't know, my therapist had me delete the numbers of everyone that I was buying from. And so when my psychiatrist was not going to prescribe me anything, and I didn't have the number of those people, I just ended up staying sober. And also because I think I found people who were like, your life isn't going to be terrible forever, you know? My sponsor was a woman who had just gotten out of prison. And she was never like, you know, don't whine, I was in prison or anything like that. But watching her be so strong and like just so happy about the world when she literally spent years in prison, like I was like, okay, well, I can get over my brain chemistry bottomless pit. You know, if she stayed sober in prison, then I can stay sober in the opposite of prison, you know, kind of the free world, for lack of a better word. So I was in that intensive outpatient treatment program for like a month, and then I came back to work. So that was like November. So from November to March, I was like really struggling at work in my brain chemistry hole. And then obviously the pandemic happened, and the pandemic was not good. It was not a good thing. But for me personally, it really turned things around for me. I feel bad saying that, but because I got to be home with pot roast all the time, and because I started finding this community of like cat people, that like brought my sobriety to a new level of like, oh, I can do this, you know? Being with pot roast was just the most healing experience. She was just so good, you know, and it just took so much energy and to take care of her. I don't mean that in a bad way. I loved taking care of her. Come here, Swiss. Jump up here. Jump up here. If you're sauced and you know it's sauce, you're sauce. I just had to focus. I just wanted to focus so much on loving her that I didn't think about how miserable I was. And I slowly climbed out of my pit, you know, and I will never, ever forget this doctor who diagnosed me with bipolar when I stopped drinking. She was like, if you can just find a way to be sober and not be so hateful about the world, she was like, I think you're going to do really great things. And she literally said, I can see you talking to kids like who are trying to get sober, like going to assemblies or something. Look at me. You think I'd ever go to a high school assembly? No. I'd rather jump off of something extremely tall. But I don't know. I think about her a lot because now I'm on the internet and sometimes I'm talking about being sober. Mostly I'm just being hot and insane, you know? But sometimes I do talk about getting sober, and I think of that doctor often. That doctor was so deeply religious. She was very problematic. I loved her. you know? I have been sober for 20, 21, 22, 3.5 years. In September, it'll be what, 4 years? And I feel like I'm at a good place, you know? Sometimes when I have an insane amount to do, I'm like, oh my God, this would get done if I had Adderall, you know? This would help me if I could just have Adderall. But that wasn't true. You know, that was never true for me. I was just telling myself that. You know, I always liked John Mulaney's stand-up because I truly thought we were like one and the same. Like, he has that line that's like, you know, I did crack cocaine the night of my high school graduation, but now I'm afraid to get a flu shot. I just really related to that so much. Not because I'm afraid to get a flu shot. I love vaccines. I love them. But because now I'm afraid of like drinking too much coffee because it'll make me too anxious, you know? So then for it to come out that he's using the whole time, I was like, oh, okay. I don't go to the meetings anymore, and I haven't done all 12 steps. But I will say that helped me so much to hang on in the beginning. I think finding, you know, a local NA meeting and just showing up and seeing that people who are sober survive and they go on to have good lives and have enjoyable lives and they don't stay angry and hateful forever can be really helpful for people, you know, and it's free and they have coffee and sometimes they have food, you know. Anyways, I hope if you are struggling with sobriety, you know that I love you and I see you and I have grace for you and I only want good things for you and I love you again. Okay. I hope that didn't make you sad. I guess I didn't really have too many jokes. That Four Loko joke, that was good. I loved that one. I mean, I love all my jokes, but anyways. Okay, I'll see you next week. Bye.